I was in a group who had about a 10% survival chance, but I'm absolutely sure that Preston Smith getting me into decent shape contributed to my survival. Hello, my name is Kram. I'm a pulmonary and critical care specialist by training, which turns out to be rather ironic because at the end of March of 2020, I acquired the coronavirus. I knew it right away when I was having fever and cough, went to the local hospital, had a blood test done, and the next day confirmed that I did in fact have it. I stayed at home the next 9 to 10 days, seeming to at least be safe. Being a specialist in the field, I thought I knew what I was doing. But at the end of that stay, I began to get very toxic. I began to hallucinate. I began to have high fevers. I was sure, in fact, that some of those spots on the wall in my living room, which is knotty pine, were a flock of hummingbirds loose in the room. And so my wife knew it was time, not to mention that I have oximeters and other devices at home, and my oxygen began to drop into the high 70s after having been maintained at relatively safe levels before that. When I got to the hospital, my conversation with the critical care doctor was about whether or not it was time to intubate me. I don't remember any of this. My wife recounts a lot of this to me because my memory is a blank for this whole period. But in any case, apparently I finally agreed with him to go ahead and have a tube put in to help me breathe because I was getting into deep trouble. And I ended up having that tube in for 16 days and was in induced coma during those 16 days. The next week after that, I finally got the tubes out, but still had to have very high flow oxygen as a therapy. And still was, through the whole period, even when I was under the drugs, having hallucinations, which were really pretty crazy. And I didn't recognize them as such at the time. The time in the ICU, but outside of being ventilated, no longer in a coma, I began to tell stories. And this included such things as the fact that my oldest daughter, who's a PhD, a Fulbright scholar, historian, I was convinced that she had somehow become an RN and was part of the crew taking care of me. I had a couple of other great stories like that where I had no clue that they weren't real. To me, they were totally real. I actually talked to other people about it as they looked at me blankly. So slowly but surely, I bounced back, and when I finally got out of the ICU, I could hardly walk across the room in the hospital room. I had lost an enormous amount of muscle. I'd lost weight in general, which I kept it off, haven't. And it took me a long time to come back. But I have no question in my mind that I was in a group who had about a 10% survival chance, especially back then when we didn't know anything about what was going on or how best to treat it. But the team that took care of me up in Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital did a fabulous job. But I'm absolutely sure that Preston Smith getting me into decent shape contributed to my survival. So, you know, I'm back with him, trying to rebuild and see if I can recapture some of that youthful fitness. I actually had black hair, no I didn't. And so we're working at it. Thanks very much.